Hey everybody, welcome back to Reach and Reverie. Today I am doing some ground level preparations towards my spring 2021 garden. What I've started with today, and I'll have to show you guys a clip that I recorded on my phone, I got rid of all of the pots that were along this wall. And once I got rid of the pots, it was very clear that I had found a ton of hibernating little bugs and beetles and all kinds of little critters. So all y'all gardeners know out there how bad roly-polies can be for a new spring garden. Roly-polies will destroy seedlings. They just love to devour those tender roots and tender stems on young seedlings. So in trying to prepare my soil for the best success into the growing season this year, I had to get rid of as many of those roly-polies as I could. There were thousands of them just curled up underneath those pots. So what I did was I opened this gate and I let the chickens in today. I'll attach that clip. I left my garden gate open so the girls could get in here and have some fun. Since it's winter and I don't have any plants in here for them to eat, this whole wall was lined with flower pots, and I just removed them because this coming growing season I'm going to till this, put a cattle panel against the wall, and grow some plants up a trellis. So right before I amend this soil, I figured I'd let the girls come in here and have a little bit of fun digging for some beetles and roly-polies that had been sitting under these flower pots. Looks like they're enjoying themselves. And once these girls have their fun, I'm going to kick them out of the garden and I'll get in here with my tiller and start getting the soil amended for the spring. Letting the chickens in, let them come in and scratch all through here through the debris, and they picked out almost all of the visible roly-polies that were on the surface, which is great news for my garden. Once the chickens had done their job, I kicked them back out, shut the gate, and I raked all of the dead leaves and all of the debris out of here. Then I got my fun new toy, this tiller. This thing is amazing. It was about $35–40 at Tractor Supply, and it works really well. I got in there, tilled up all of that soil. You can step on it to get it nice and deep, and then if it gets stuck in there, you have a plunger that helps get all that soil out of there. So I tilled a good probably 18 inches or so away from the wall, all the way down this section. And all I'm doing here is I'm just breaking up the soil. Now that the soil is all broken up, thanks to the help of this tiller, I am going to add some amazing alfalfa pellets. These alfalfa pellets only have two ingredients, alfalfa and molasses. Alfalfa is really good for your soil because it has a lot of protein. It contains ash, which contains phosphorus. It has a lot of calcium and a ton of other minerals that are beneficial to your plants. The molasses in these pellets is going to be great to feed the little microorganisms that live in the soil. So overall, alfalfa pellets are a great slow release fertilizer. You can just sprinkle them right into your soil. It doesn't burn your plants, and they break down over several months, which means that you're going to be having a slow release of all of the benefits and nutrients of alfalfa pellets over the course of your growing season. You really probably only need to add these to the soil probably twice a year. I'm adding them so early because I want to give these pellets time to dissolve and break down into the soil so that my plants this season can already start reaping the benefits of these alfalfa pellets. These pellets right here came in a 50-pound bag. The brand that I bought is called Do More. And this 50-pound bag of alfalfa pellets at my local Tractor Supply was $10, maybe. I think it was $10.99. You can get smaller pellets that I'm sure would break down faster, and you could even get single ingredient, just alfalfa, if you don't want the molasses in your soil. And those smaller pellets are quite a bit more expensive though. I looked at both varieties, and the smaller ones were $16.99 while these bigger ones were $10.99. And I actually like the molasses in these pellets because molasses is really good for your soil, and it's also good for your plants. So I can handle having these two ingredients in this area. I'm just gonna sprinkle them in and let those break down, and that's going to add some nice slow release fertilizer, all natural nutrients back into the soil. This back wall is going to be the perfect spot in my garden to grow cucumbers, melons, and watermelons this year. All right, everybody, I just drove the T-post into the ground, and then I measured the area where I'm going to be putting a cattle panel, and it turns out I thought I was going to have 8 feet of trellis space. I'm actually going to do 10 feet of trellis space. Now, cattle panels come in 16-foot sections, so I need to go measure that cattle panel. I'm going to use these big old bolt cutters to cut it into a 10-foot section, and then I'm going to come back here and secure the cattle panel onto these T-posts. All right, everybody, so I have the cattle panel secured into the ground on the T-posts. All I needed for this was some tie wire or baling wire, some tin snips to cut the baling wire, and some pliers to tighten it onto the T-posts. And I just kind of tightened them like a twisty tie and did a couple of ties per side, and that is it. So the reason that I broke up the soil already is because I thought it would be easier to do so before installing the cattle panel trellis with the T-posts. Now that the soil is all broken up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover all of this with some straw to keep the soil nice and moist, and I am going to place an order for my amendments to create my own soil to add on top of this to really give great nutrition to the plants to maximize their growing potential this year. So once that order comes in, I'm going to be adding and mixing into this some peat moss, some vermiculite, and some organic matter like compost and manure all into this. Mix it all together, and that's the basic gist of it. There's a couple other things I add into the soil, like especially for melons, I'll add a little bit of sand to this, but that's about it. So as far as today goes, all I have left to do is add the straw just to kind of keep this nice and moist. But that straw is going to come off when I add the soil. Some of the plants that are going into this bed I am going to start in a greenhouse or inside under a grow light, and when it's time to come out and plant these, I will just pop them in the soil, add a little bit more straw around it to keep it nice and mulched, and that is the gist of this growing space. I have high hopes for this area. I do think that I'm gonna have a lot more success growing this year with this setup than those little tiny pots that I was working with. I was not sponsored for this tilling tool or for the alfalfa pellets. I do recommend both, however, as I had a really great experience using both that tilling tool and those alfalfa pellets. All right, so now I am done working in this space for a while. I just went ahead and covered with some Bermuda grass hay. That way I am keeping the soil in a good condition, nice and moist and protected. Now that I've worked all of this soil, if I were to leave it exposed, it would end up drying out and losing condition. So this is really going to help whenever I get my soil in and I'm ready to amend this bed and get it ready for planting. I will end up just removing all of this top layer and adding it to my compost bin, and then mixing in the soil into what's below this grass. So I am doing this build with the cattle panel trellis and the tilling on January 11th, and I am not planning on planting my plants into this garden bed until around April. I was taking advantage of the foot of snow we got last week. It really soaked into the soil and made the soil nice and workable. So I went ahead and I took advantage of that. And now that I got these cattle panels into this bed, I'm just really excited that I can start breaking down nutrients like those alfalfa pellets into the soil and get a little bit closer to the growing season. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel to see more gardening videos like this. Let me know, how do you grow cucumbers and melons and watermelons? Do you grow them on the ground or do you grow them on a trellis? Leave it in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. Until next time, I will see you soon.